The wait is over. Finally, the Sunrise Countdown arc has arrived, in which we're going to see Muzan Kibutsuji versus all the Hashiras, meaning all the Hashiras who are still alive. And after this fight, we'll find out how many Hashiras will survive. This arc is one of the most intense arcs of the entire series, where the Hashiras and Demon Slayers will constantly be under the threat of death. Will they be able to defeat Muzan in the end? All these questions will be answered by the end of this video. Previously in this insane story, we saw how Muzan Kibutsuji emerged from his cocoon and killed dozens of demon slayers. Upon learning this, Kiryu is completely shaken. He feels that if he had managed things better, so many demon slayers wouldn't have died, and he blames himself for it. That's when Kanata, his older sister, slaps him hard to snap him out of it so he doesn't get demotivated at such a crucial time. She yells at him, saying it's not his fault and that he should focus on his work. This makes Kiryu realize that his father and grandfathers faced the same pressure, and now is not the time for regrets. Since all the upper moons are dead by this point, all the Hashiras and Demon Slayers can now fully focus on Muzan. In the next scene, we see the messenger crow informing all the Hashiras that Muzan has emerged from his cocoon, so they all need to come together. While all the Hashiras had defeated their opponents, Mitsuri and Obanai were still fighting Nakime, and both of them were getting frustrated because defeating Nakime was proving to be extremely difficult. Not only was Nakime not fighting them directly, but Muzan had also emerged. Just then, someone pulls Mitsuri back, and we see Tanjiro and Giyu, the first Hashiras to reach Muzan's location, and now they're face to face with the Demon King. As soon as Tanjiro sees Muzan, a flood of memories rushes through his mind. How Muzan caused his family's death, turned Nezuko into a demon, and led to the deaths of all the friends he made on the path of the Demon Slayers, all because of Muzan. Thinking about this, his blood starts to boil, and all he wants is to kill Muzan. But then our water Hashira Giyu tells Tanjiro to stay calm. At that moment, Muzan speaks up, saying that every Demon Slayer whose family or friends were killed says the same thing, that they'll kill him. But they can never actually do it. He adds that they should be grateful that their own lives were spared while their friends or family died, because in the end, staying alive is everything. Then Muzan says that sacrifices are necessary to make the world a better place, just like no one blames a flood or earthquake, even if it kills their family or friends. He explains that his point is simple: go back to your lives and stop bothering me. Muzan further claims that actually they're the villains who always want to fight, while he always runs away from conflict. After hearing all this nonsense, Tanjiro can't control himself anymore, and with a calm expression says, something like this shouldn't be allowed to live. Tanjiro knows one thing: even if Muzan's head is cut off, he'll regenerate it. The only way to kill him is to expose him to sunlight, but this one method is going to make defeating Muzan incredibly difficult. So Tanjiro's focus is on finding Muzan's weak point and sharing that crucial information with the other Hashiras. Suddenly, Muzan attacks Tanjiro and Giyu, but both Demon Slayers easily dodge the attacks. Giyu uses Water Breathing's 11th form, Dead Calm, to block Muzan's multiple attacks. However, with his next attack, Muzan's speed increases tenfold, and Tanjiro can barely dodge them. Then, out of nowhere, one of Muzan's random attacks hits Tanjiro's eye, completely slicing through his right eye. Somehow Giyu pulls him away from Muzan and tries to explain that getting too close to Muzan is literally impossible, since he's far more powerful than any upper moon. Muzan then asks them, tell me the truth, do you really think 2 Hashiras are enough to defeat me? Both Giyu and Tanjiro have their doubts about this. Just then, Muzan receives a signal from Nakime, who informs him that both Obanai and Mitsuri have been killed, and now she can freely move the Infinity Castle. This makes Muzan even happier, and he starts attacking Giyu and Tanjiro again. Not only can Tanjiro not attack Muzan, but he can't even dodge properly anymore. And since he's already lost one eye, he doesn't want to become a burden to Giyu. So he uses his sense of smell, but Muzan is so fast that Tanjiro can't even smell his attacks. Tanjiro gets so caught up in dodging Muzan that he loses his balance and crashes into a wall. Seeing his chance, Muzan launches a special attack to finish Tanjiro off, which would definitely kill him. But just then, breaking through the ceiling, Mitsuri enters. Someone Muzan thought was already dead. She unleashes multiple attacks on Muzan, but they don't even touch him. To Muzan, Mitsuri's presence or absence makes no difference, and seeing this hurts her deeply. On the other hand, we see Obanai saving Tanjiro from that attack. Seeing these two Hashiras, Muzan gets furious with Nakime and demands to know what's going on. That's when it's revealed that Yushiro is controlling Nakime's brain with his unique blood demon art. At this point, Nakime is doing whatever Yushiro tells her to. In a fit of rage, Yushiro says, "By killing Lady Tamayo, you made your biggest mistake, and I'll make sure you pay for it." Then the entire Infinity Castle starts shaking, leaving all the Hashiras and Demon Slayers confused. Seeing all this, Muzan's anger reaches the next level, and Mitsuri can only pray that Giyu arrives soon, because he's their trump card. In a flashback, we see Yushiro telling Mitsuri, "Distract Nakime and I'll take control of her." And that's exactly what happens. Back in the present, we see Muzan putting all his strength into regaining control over Nakime, while Yushiro resists with all his might. Just then, a demon slayer with Yushiro offers him his blood, saying it'll give him the power to defeat Muzan, but Yushiro snaps at him, telling him to shut up. Slowly, Muzan starts regaining control over Nakime. That's when Obanai and Giyu attack Muzan on the battlefield. Giyu uses Water Breathing's fourth form, Striking Tide, and Obanai uses Snake Breathing's first form, Snake Slice, distracting Muzan as he blocks their attacks. In that moment, Yushiro regains control of Nakime and makes the floor Muzan is standing on disappear, causing him to lose balance and fall. But Nakime was just a distraction for Muzan now. He clenches his fist and completely destroys her. However, before the Infinity Castle is fully destroyed, Yushiro uses all his strength to teleport all the Hashiras and Demon Slayers out of there. In the final panel of the Infinity Castle arc, we see all the Demon Slayers and Muzan teleported back to the real world. We see Tanjiro lying amid the rubble of the Infinity Castle, but now he's on the surface, thanks to Yushiro's efforts paying off. Then we see Kiriya asking his older sister how much time is left until sunrise. She tells him there's about an hour and a half left, meaning the Demon Slayers still have to hold Muzan off for 1.5 hours. Hearing this, Kiriya nearly loses it. Obviously, they're barely managing to fight Muzan, and now they have to stall him for another hour and a half. Just then, a messenger crow flies to everyone, announcing that there's an hour and a half left until sunrise. Tanjiro looks around and sees that Giyu, Obanai, and Mitsuri are in perfect condition. Seeing everyone in good shape, Tanjiro sets off to find Muzan. At that moment, Muzan emerges from the building's rubble, but this time he's absolutely furious. In a rage, Muzan says, "You think you can stop me until sunrise? If you can, then prove it. My name is Muzan Kibutsuji." Then he launches his attacks on all the Hashiras, and they counterattack in response. Obanai uses Snake Breathing's third form, Mitsuri uses Love Breathing's second form, and Giyu uses Water Breathing's eighth form. With the combination of the three Hashiras, Obanai somehow manages to strike Muzan's neck. But as soon as he does, Muzan's neck heals instantly, as if nothing happened, meaning his regeneration is literally god level. The three Hashiras are now dangerously close to Muzan after their attack, and being that close to him could be fatal. But before Muzan can land his attacks on them, several Demon Slayers arrive and take the hits themselves to protect the Hashiras. Seeing so many Demon Slayers die at once leaves the Hashiras stunned. Meanwhile, Tanjiro can't even stand, and he's vomiting blood. Muzan explains that those who die instantly from his attacks are lucky because if they survive, they suffer from a deadly infection that makes them die in agony. With every attack, Muzan injects his blood into his opponents, and we all know what happens when Muzan's blood enters someone's body. Then Muzan tells Tanjiro, "Don't worry, you won't turn into a demon. I've injected so much of my blood into you that you won't survive it. You'll die before you can turn." After this, we see Tanjiro in a terrible state. You can literally see it. Where Muzan's attack hit his right arm, a massive tumor-like growth has formed, and he's struggling to breathe. Then we see Nezuko, who's been asleep until now, but suddenly wakes up. Sakonji asks her what's wrong, but without saying anything, Nezuko rushes outside and starts running. Tengen and Shinjuro, who are outside, ask Kiriya if they should stop her. Kiriya believes Muzan's blood is influencing her, but before he can say anything, a hand rests on his shoulder. It's the spirit of his father, Kagaya. His spirit tells Kiriya to let Nezuko do what she wants. So despite his reluctance, Kiriya orders Tengen and Shinjuro to let her go. Sakonji, still chasing Nezuko, can't keep up due to his old age and loses sight of her. In reality, Nezuko is having a vision of her father, guiding her on where to go to reach the battlefield quickly and save Tanjiro. Nezuko leaps off a cliff, shocking Sakonji, who realizes that Miss Tamayo's medicine didn't work. She's still a demon. Then we see Giyu, Mitsuri, and Obanai still fighting Muzan, but they're powerless against his overwhelming strength. The only reason the Hashiras are still alive is the Demon Slayer mark, but even then, Mitsuri can't dodge Muzan's attacks anymore. By this point, several of his attacks have hit her, and she can no longer fight. But then, in one swift strike, one of Muzan's tentacles is severed, and the strongest Hashira, Gyomei, makes his entrance. Seeing him, Mitsuri feels immense relief. Swinging his weapon, Gyomei says, "Sorry for being late." Muzan is surprised to see him, and just then the wind Hashira Sanemi attacks Muzan from behind, slicing him in half. He throws several liquid-filled bottles at Muzan, which Muzan easily cuts, but the liquid splashes all over his body. Instantly, Sanemi tosses a match, setting Muzan ablaze. Muzan realizes the fight is about to get even more intense. Giyu spots Murata and shouts at him, saying Tanjiro's condition is critical and to take him somewhere safe for treatment. Murata does so, secretly thrilled that Giyu remembers his name. Then we're shown Tanjiro's dream. He's chopping wood in front of an old house that somehow feels familiar. A little girl approaches, pointing to another person who bows respectfully to Tanjiro. Seeing him, Tanjiro realizes this is Yoriichi, original sun-breathing user. Meanwhile, Murata is doing everything he can to help Tanjiro. But suddenly, Tanjiro stops breathing, leaving Murata in a panic. Back in the dream, Yoriichi tells Tanjiro there's something he wants to share. Tanjiro says, 2 years ago we met, and it feels like it was just yesterday. Even Sumire has grown so much. She was just a little girl back then. Then it dawns on Tanjiro that he's in his ancestor's body, experiencing the memories of Sumiyoshi, a direct friend of Yoriichi. Yoriichi says seeing others happy makes him feel good personally, and being born into this world is nothing less than a blessing. He recalls that his mother was a deeply spiritual person who always prayed for him because everyone thought he was deaf. If you've seen the Kokushibo video, you'd know Yoriichi's full past. That's why his mother prayed to the sun god to always bless Yoriichi. His brother Michikatsu also worried about him a lot, even though he faced harsh punishments for talking to Yoriichi. Still, Michikatsu always tried to help, and during that time he gave Yoriichi the flute. The night his mother died, Yoriichi left home. After running away, he ran for a day and a night without stopping. Then he saw a girl around his age standing still in a field. When he asked, she explained that a disease had killed her entire family, and she was now alone. She wanted to take some tadpoles home with her, but she stood there from morning till evening without moving or speaking. At night, she left the tadpoles behind, not wanting them to be separated from their family because of her. Seeing her sadness, Yoriichi offered to walk her home instead of the tadpoles. Shocked, she looked at him. Yoriichi narrates this story to Tanjiro's ancestor, describing how the girl's eyes were like obsidian. Her name was Uta, and after this incident, Yoriichi and Uta stayed together forever. While Yoriichi was quiet and reserved, Uta was the opposite, talkative and able to chat with anyone for hours. Yoriichi believed he was different from others, and no one treated him normally except Uta. He describes himself as a kite with a cut string, directionless. But Uta caught that kite and helped him live a normal life, fulfilling his dream. Then there's a time skip of 10 years when both Yoriichi and Uta are married, and by this time, Uta is pregnant. One day, Yoriichi goes to the city to fetch a midwife because they lived in an isolated house far from even the village. His plan was to return home with the midwife before evening, but on the way, Yoriichi meets an old man who was trying to cross a mountain. The old man's condition was so bad that he couldn't even walk properly. Actually, the old man's son had been injured in a war, and all he wanted was to see his son alive one last time. Yoriichi helps him and takes the old man to meet his son. But during all this, Yoriichi loses track of time, and before he knows it, it's midnight. As soon as he can, Yoriichi rushes back home, only to find that Uta and their baby are already dead. This was the work of a demon that only comes out at night. Tanjiro, who's listening to this story, feels terrible, and Yoriichi says, "No matter how special something is to you, if you don't protect it, anyone can come and destroy it." Yoriichi just sat there holding his wife's body in his lap, without moving or speaking. 10 days later, a demon slayer arrives, chasing a demon, and sees Yoriichi in this state. At the demon slayer's insistence, Yoriichi buries his family's bodies. Yoriichi says his dream was to live a normal life with his family. Was that too big a dream? He says, that dream of mine is why. So Yoriichi taught the breathing styles to everyone. However, no one could learn sun breathing because it was an extremely powerful technique. Still, inspired by sun breathing, all the Demon Slayers developed their own breathing styles, and the few who mastered them were given the title of Hashira. Sometime later, Michikatsu also joined the Demon Slayers. If you've seen my previous video, you'd know why Michikatsu was the last to join them. After that, Yoriichi explains how he first met Muzan. A few years after becoming a Demon Slayer, Yoriichi comes face to face with Muzan for the first time. The moment he sees Muzan, Yoriichi realizes, I was born to kill this person. That's why Muzan personally wanted to kill him. Without wasting any time, Muzan launches his first attack on Yoriichi. Yoriichi easily dodges it, but he realizes that Muzan's attacks are incredibly powerful and would be extremely dangerous if they hit anyone. Since Yoriichi could see into the transparent world, he looks inside Muzan and sees that Muzan's body has 5 brains and 7 hearts. Despite Muzan's overwhelming power, Yoriichi combines all 12 of his breathing forms into one move, unleashing the 13th form of sun breathing on Muzan. In a single strike, Muzan is left in a terrible state. Tanjiro, listening to this story, realizes this was the first time Yoriichi used the 13th form, or the final form of sun breathing. After this attack, Muzan's body was torn to pieces, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't regenerate. He was barely holding his head in place with his shredded body. Yoriichi realizes Muzan can't regenerate because of his bright red sword. Then Yoriichi asks Muzan, "What are your last words?" But Muzan was so shaken by this single attack that he couldn't say anything to Yoriichi. His face turned completely red, and his eyes were wide open in shock. Then Yoriichi notices Muzan's right hand pointing toward Miss Tamayo, who was watching Muzan. Strangely, there was hope in her eyes. She wanted Muzan to die. So Yoriichi doesn't do anything to Miss Tamayo and steps forward to finish Muzan off. But then he's shocked because he said Muzan's name and nothing happened. Yoriichi goes to Miss Tamayo and she tells him how Muzan is the originator of demons, and that he won't show himself again until Yoriichi is dead. After this, Miss Tamayo promises to help the Demon Slayers kill Muzan. Since she was telling the truth, Yoriichi lets her go. Tanjiro, hearing this story, is shocked that this girl is Miss Tamayo. When Yoriichi returns to the Demon Slayer headquarters, all the Demon Slayers tell him that his brother Michikatsu has accepted an offer to become a demon. When they learn that Yoriichi let Muzan go, the majority of the Demon Slayers decide that Yoriichi should be sentenced to death in front of everyone. But the newly appointed head at the time, an 8-year-old boy who had recently lost his father, doesn't approve of this. Plus, Yoriichi had done his best, so his execution is delayed, and he's expelled from the Demon Slayers. At the end of this story, Yoriichi says that he was the only one in the world who could kill Muzan, and that was the sole reason for his birth, but he couldn't even fulfill that. He disappointed all the Demon Slayers and couldn't protect his own family. He considers himself responsible for everyone who will die because of Muzan in the future. Tanjiro, listening to all this, starts crying, thinking it wasn't Yoriichi's fault. Then Sumire, the daughter of Tanjiro's ancestor, goes to Yoriichi and asks him to hold her. Tears well up in Yoriichi's eyes, and just then Sumiyoshi's wife arrives. Seeing Yoriichi in this state, she's confused and comforts him, inviting him for dinner. Tanjiro thinks that after everything, he hopes Yoriichi found peace. Then we return to the present time, where the fight between Muzan and all the Hashiras is ongoing. Giyu notices that Muzan's attacks are gradually getting much faster. By this point, Mitsuri is only alive because of her sheer will. Muzan specifically targets Mitsuri, cutting off half her face and her right shoulder completely. Just then, all the Hashiras arrive to save Mitsuri and manage to block Muzan's attack together. Obanai takes Mitsuri to a safe place and tells a Demon Slayer to find Yushiro as quickly as possible because only he can heal her. Though Mitsuri still wants to fight, Obanai firmly refuses. As Obanai is about to leave, Mitsuri pleads with him, "Please don't die." Heading back to the battlefield, Obanai thinks about how it would have been if he and Mitsuri had met in a normal world under normal circumstances. But regardless, he thinks, "First, I need to die and rid myself of this worthless bloodline." While running, the bandages fall from Obanai's face. revealing a large scar across his mouth. In his mind, Obanai tells Mitsuri that he comes from a terrible family, a family that only cares about its own gain, no matter the cost. He explains that his family was no less than royalty, with immense wealth and even more possessions. But after 370 years, the first boy born in that family was Obanai. Because this was such a rare event, his family sold him off. He would have been killed much earlier, but since his eye color was unique, they kept him alive longer. Basically, the demon his family worshipped wanted to eat Obanai, and they wanted to fatten him up before feeding him to it. That demon's upper body looked like a snake, and on its orders, his family cut his mouth. From childhood, Obanai was kept in a jail so that when he grew up, the demon could eat him. In that jail, he made a friend, a white snake that always stayed around his neck. Somehow, Obanai managed to cut through the wooden jail and escape, but the demon found out. In his next life, he'll reunite with Mitsuri, and this time he'll definitely confess to her. Then we see Nezuko, who's gotten very close to the battlefield. Meanwhile, the Kikushi are doing their jobs, keeping regular citizens away from the battlefield and providing safety to those trapped in buildings. Some Kikushi were tasked with pulling people out of the rubble. While doing this, they spot a cat under some wood. As they lift the wood, the cat darts toward the battlefield. We're shown that this is Miss Tamayo's cat with a bag strapped to its back. Then we see Obanai and Sanemi fighting Muzan up close. Obanai smartly cuts off Muzan's arm, and Muzan thinks, these Hashiras trying to buy extra time, it's pointless. I can leave whenever I want. Obanai fights Muzan carefully because one wrong move could cost him his life. He tells himself, I'll only let myself pass out when there's just 1 second left until sunrise. Because the Demon Slayers who sacrificed their lives also played a role in holding Muzan back. Then we see Giyu, who's extremely weakened by this point because a lot of Muzan's venom has entered his body. One of Muzan's attacks knocks the sword out of Giyu's hand, but just then, Obanai and Giyu intervene. Sanemi throws Giyu a sword, saying, the sun hasn't risen yet, and if you're so eager to die, I'll kill you myself. Giyu picks up the sword and uses Water Breathing's third form, Dance of the Swift Current, telling himself, I'll be the last to give up. Seeing all this, Muzan thinks, these Hashiras are more stubborn than I expected, but there's no need for me to worry. My venom has spread too much into all of them, and soon they'll all die. The Hashiras notice that the poison in their bodies has started taking effect. They've all weakened, and their focus is nearly gone. Just then, Miss Tamayo's cat arrives on the battlefield with antidotes for Muzan's poison in the bag on its back. The cat gives the antidotes to all the Hashiras, who inject themselves with it. In the next second, Muzan cuts the cat in half and wonders what that was. Meanwhile, the Hashiras notice that the injection worked instantly. The weakness and tumors in their bodies disappeared immediately. This greatly helps them, and they can fight Muzan like before. Giyu realizes this treatment is only temporary, but it'll still allow them to hold Muzan off for a while. Muzan figures out what just happened, and it infuriates him. He starts randomly attacking the Hashiras, who can barely dodge them. Amid all this, Obanai thinks that his contribution to the fight has been the least so far. This is because when he was imprisoned as a child, he wasn't allowed to do anything. The heaviest thing he lifted in his entire childhood was chopsticks, and the biggest thing he did was escape that jail. Then Obanai recalls that the messenger crows told everyone Tokito had turned his sword bright red by gripping it with immense strength. Obanai didn't know the details, but he knew that without a bright red sword he couldn't do anything to Muzan, so he gathers all his strength, focusing it on his grip, and eventually his sword turns bright red too. Then Obanai realizes he concentrated so much on his sword that his body started running out of oxygen, causing dizziness. Just then, Muzan's tentacles attack him. Sanemi yells at Obanai to look behind him. Obanai thinks that if any Hashira dies or can't fight during this moment, the others will have to bear the burden because one more Hashira's load will be divided among them. Obanai tries his hardest to move, but his entire body is numb and he can only feel his arms. Just then Giyu arrives to save him, but Muzan is even more shocked to see that Obanai not only dodged his attack but also easily cut off his arm. Muzan notices that Obanai's attack was far more powerful than any before, and this time regenerating the arm he cut is proving difficult. Suddenly Muzan's other arm is sliced off too. Muzan is extremely confused because he can't see who's attacking him. He realizes it's some kind of blood demon art from Miss Tamayo, but he still can't figure out why he can't sense them. Using his incredible hearing, Muzan deduces that there aren't just one or two, but three people attacking him invisibly. He launches attacks at the most likely locations and hits all three attackers at once. Here we learn that those three attackers are none other than Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Kanao, whose invisibility seals, created by Yoshiro's blood demon art, Muzan had broken. Seeing them, Gyome is overjoyed. Inosuke yells that he can never die, that he's immortal, and that he has plenty of seals to turn invisible again. Before Inosuke can finish, Muzan attacks him, but Obanai cuts off both of Muzan's arms. This reveals to everyone that a bright red sword slows Muzan's regeneration significantly, delighting Sanemi. Then we see Kanao and Zenitsu putting seals back on their heads, turning invisible and attacking Muzan. Kanao uses Flower Breathing's fourth form, Psy-Flower Robe, and Zenitsu uses Thunder Breathing's first form, Thunderclap Flash. Muzan says, "Even your best attacks can't hold me back for long." Just then, Obanai arrives and uses Snake Breathing's third form, Tightening Coil. With the Demon Slayers' increased numbers and Obanai's red blade, the pressure on Gyome lessens. He clashes his weapons together, manifesting bright red weapons. With them, Gyome attacks Muzan, completely destroying his left shoulder. Seeing this, Giyu and Sanemi clash their swords together, turning them bright red too. A messenger crow arrives, informing everyone that there's 1 hour and 3 minutes left until sunrise. Hearing this, Sanemi and Giyu prepare to fight Muzan with their bright red swords. Then we see Tanjiro, still unconscious, as Yushiro injects him with an antidote made by Miss Tamayo. Murata says too many injections might not be good, but Yushiro, furious, tells him Tanjiro's condition is critical, so they'll try everything possible. The Demon Slayers try to pry Tanjiro's sword from his hand, but his grip is too strong. Yushiro takes this as a sign that Tanjiro still has the will to fight. Just then, a Demon Slayer says Tanjiro's pulse is back. Shocked, everyone tries to wake him. Murata yells that Muzan will slip away unless everyone contributes. Suddenly, Tanjiro tightens his grip and opens his eyes. Then we see a Kakushi surveying the battlefield, hoping the Hashiras can hold Muzan until sunrise. We see Gyome attacking Muzan with his weapons, tearing apart the middle of his body. Sanemi runs in, picks up a seal from the ground, puts it on his head, and unleashes Wind-Breathing's seventh form. Since Gyome no longer has as many responsibilities, he focuses on Muzan's body. Using the transparent world, he looks inside and is shocked to see Muzan has multiple hearts and brains. He realizes cutting off Muzan's head won't matter. He has plenty of organs to keep himself alive. Gyome thinks, why not attack his vital organs? But attacking alone won't work, so he tells the Hashiras, focus all your concentration on your vision and try to look inside Muzan's body. Can you see anything? When Obanai looks closely, he's shocked too, but it's no use. In a rage, Muzan uses all his tentacles and arms with full force, attacking his surroundings. The resulting explosion is so powerful that the Kakushi outside sees it. He sees Muzan standing alone atop a pile of rubble with Gyome collapsed nearby, one leg severed and unconscious. Sanemi's body lies on a rooftop, also unconscious, and all the Demon Slayers are scattered and knocked out. Then we see Kanao, whose seal falls off her head. Muzan, furious, advances toward her. Kanao tries her hardest to fight, or at least stand, but her body won't respond. Muzan raises his hand to kill her, but just then Tanjiro enters, using Sun-Breathing Dance of the Fire God, Shining Ray of Grace, completely severing Muzan's arm, which doesn't regenerate. In a badass move, Tanjiro leaves Kanao with the Kakushi, saying, take care of her. Muzan comments to Tanjiro, you look disgusting. Without replying, Tanjiro glares at him angrily. Seeing Tanjiro in this state, Muzan realizes his power has grown immensely and says, I can't even tell which of us is the demon. Furious, Tanjiro tells Muzan, let's end this game today. While unconscious, Tanjiro wasn't waking up, but in his mind, he kept reflecting on how the sun-breathing techniques he had learned so far were vastly different from the true sun-breathing. Tanjiro recalls that Yoriichi was a simple and calm individual. When Suyako asked Yoriichi to demonstrate the sun-breathing forms, he silently showcased all of them without a word. Everyone present was moved to tears by the beauty and power of his movements. Tanjiro remarks that he would keep Yoriichi's legacy alive forever. He had memorized all of Yoriichi's breathing forms and vowed to pass down the sun-breathing techniques to the next generation. In his mind, Tanjiro shouts to Yoriichi, "You shouldn't feel like you're useless. You've done so much for the Demon Slayers and all of us. You're a legendary human." Yoriichi turns around with a soft smile and thanks him. The scene shifts back to the present, where Tanjiro is thanking Yoriichi for his immense contributions and for sparing Tamayo's life. Lady Tamayo's assistance to the demons and the Demon Slayers is something everyone acknowledges. Tanjiro admits he always wanted to understand the connection between the sun-breathing's 13th form and his own journey. He also realizes that while the great Yoriichi couldn't eliminate all the unnecessary elements from the breathing techniques, Tanjiro couldn't afford to lose motivation at such a critical moment. Recalling Rengoku's words, he tells himself, "Set your heart ablaze." Instantly, Tanjiro launches an attack on Muzan. Muzan, witnessing Tanjiro's lightning-fast movements and sun-breathing, is reminded of Yoriichi, someone he both deeply hates and fears. To keep Tanjiro at bay, Muzan unleashes a barrage of random tentacle attacks, causing the ground around them to split apart. In response, Tanjiro arranges all 12 sun-breathing forms into a seamless pattern and launches them at Muzan. Though Muzan manages to throw him back before he can fully execute the assault, Tanjiro's efforts birth a new form by connecting all the previous ones, a form that belongs solely to him. Muzan, highly intelligent, quickly deduces what Tanjiro is attempting. He also notices that Tanjiro's sword has transformed into a bright red blade, yet even at this point, Tanjiro cannot intimidate Muzan. Muzan ensures Tanjiro never gets the chance to connect the 12 forms fully. Since Tanjiro hasn't mastered the technique yet, he begins to tire. Muzan observes Tanjiro's diminishing power and accuracy, secretly rejoicing. Many swordsmen have come and gone, but none have reached Yoriichi's level, until a name clicks in Muzan's mind, Lady Tamayo. Having consumed Tamayo, many of her cells still linger within Muzan. In his consciousness, he confronts her, demanding, "What did you do to me?" Lady Tamayo responds with a smile, "The medicine turns demons back into humans, and it does one more thing, which I won't tell you." Infuriated, Muzan crushes her head in his mind and delves into her memories. He sees a lab where Yoshiro and Shinobu are researching a drug. Two medicines emerge. The first turns demons into humans, ineffective against Muzan, but the second, an aging medicine, works perfectly. It causes Muzan to age over 50 years every minute. A deadly combination alongside the human conversion drug and Tanjiro's sun-breathing. Using his razor-sharp intellect, Muzan calculates how long the aging medicine has been affecting him. A messenger crow caws, announcing that only 59 minutes remain until sunrise. Tanjiro unleashes a flurry of sun-breathing techniques, Shining Ray of Grace, Azure Heaven, Fire Chariot, in varying combinations, frustrating Muzan. Though Muzan retaliates, his accuracy wanes. Tanjiro dodges and counters with Sun Halo Dragon Dance, Bone Burning Sun, and Sunflower Lance, finally connecting all 12 forms. However, he still cannot unleash the 13th form. Nevertheless, Muzan's faltering confidence boosts Tanjiro's resolve. With less than an hour until sunrise, Tanjiro, Yoshiro, and Tamayo's cat join forces. Yoshiro reattaches Tamayo's head to her body, reviving her as a demon. Together they rush to the Hashira, treating them with whatever medicines they have. Yoshiro panics upon seeing Gyome, the strongest Hashira, unable to fight due to severe blood loss from a severed leg. Even if Gyome regains consciousness, he won't be able to battle. Overwhelmed, Yoshiro breaks into tears. Tanjiro, unable to master sun-breathing fully, realizes Muzan has multiple hearts and brains. He decides to target them in his next attack. But exhaustion and injury overtake him. His vision darkens and he loses control of his body, collapsing right in front of Muzan. Before Muzan can strike, the serpent Hashira, Obanai, intervenes, saving Tanjiro at the last moment. Enraged, Muzan growls, "Why won't you all just die?" Tanjiro thanks Obanai, but as his eyes open, he sees the attack meant for him has struck Obanai instead, leaving deep scars across his face and blinding him. Tanjiro's heart sinks, but Obanai calms him, explaining that losing his sight isn't a big deal. His vision was already poor in one eye, and his snake Kaburamaru can guide him. Obanai leaves Tanjiro in a safe spot and returns to fight Muzan. who in a fury aims to kill him completely. Muzan leaps into the air, but Obanai dodges with Kaburamaru's help. Tanjiro rejoins the battle, and together they launch a combined assault. Muzan notices Kaburamaru aiding Obanai in dodging attacks. Infuriated that a mere snake can read his moves, Muzan struggles as Tanjiro and Obanai overwhelm him. They realize Muzan is weakening thanks to the aging medicine. Suddenly, Tanjiro spots a change in Muzan's body. Old scars from Yoriichi reappear, shocking Muzan. Tanjiro sees this as a sign and targets those spots, knowing they mark Muzan's hearts and brains, doubling the damage. To aid Obanai, Tanjiro decides to give him Yushiro's seals for an advantage. A messenger crow arrives, but Muzan flees at top speed, stepping over Demon Slayer corpses. Tanjiro pursues, and Obanai lands a direct strike on Muzan's neck with a seal, vanishing and attacking invisibly. Overwhelmed, Muzan weakens further. Meanwhile, Nezuko stands just outside the city where Muzan had attacked a family, injecting his blood into them. Believing them dead, Muzan leaves disappointed. Nezuko arrives, lost in memories. When Tanjiro reaches out to her, instantly she heals and transforms back into a human, declaring, "I am Kamado Nezuko." Their teamwork shines as hunters take turns keeping Muzan occupied, allowing others to recover. Muzan, pushed to his limit, declares it's time to end them all. The crow announces only minutes remain until sunrise. Muzan realizes he can't split his body, a result of Tamayo's interference, and the fourth ingredient in her medicine begins destroying his cells from within. Furious and facing his greatest fear, death, Muzan falters. Tamayo taunts him, "You don't need to be strong to kill you." Though only Yoriichi's bright red blade could harm Muzan before, Tamayo's 4 drugs now make even normal attacks devastating. Muzan stops fighting, staring at the sky. Tanjiro, barely able to move, suffers seizures as the drugs and exhaustion take their toll. A shockwave kills the crow and affects Kiriya at headquarters, linked via blood demon art. Tengen and Shinjuro rush to help, but Kiriya insists he's fine, asking about Tanjiro and Obanai. With no response and only 25 minutes until sunrise, tension mounts. On the battlefield, Muzan can no longer use his techniques. Inosuke, despite his own dire state, rages at Muzan's atrocities, tears streaming as he attacks with beast breathing. Zenitsu, the thunder breather, saves Inosuke with thunderclap and flash, urging Tanjiro not to die so close to victory. Muzan hurls Zenitsu and Inosuke into a building, but they persist. Tanjiro, suspecting a blood demon art is disrupting his nervous system, stabs himself with his bright red sword to fight on. With sunrise nearing, he pushes beyond his limits. Inosuke and Zenitsu combine their forms, Mad Cleave and Thunderclap, wounding Muzan. Tanjiro follows with Solar Halo Dragon Dance, pinning Muzan to a wall. Mitsuri rips off Muzan's arm, losing her own, while Sanemi severs the other with wind breathing. As Muzan's chest opens to devour Tanjiro, Obanai sacrifices himself to the bite. Sunrise begins, and Muzan, desperate, unleashes a final shockwave, severing Tanjiro's arm. Giyu arrives, helping Tanjiro's sword turn bright red again, forcing Muzan to vomit blood. As the sun rises higher, Muzan disintegrates but tries to revert to a childlike form to escape. Kiriya orders everyone to block him. Train cars are placed in his path, and Sanemi's wind-breathing topples him. Muzan burrows underground, but Gyome's chains and the Hashiras' combined efforts stop him. Kiriya declares the end of the infinite battle, fainting from exhaustion. The Kakushi treat the Hashira, but Gyome refuses help, blaming himself for failing to protect the children who distracted Muzan to save him. Mitsuri asks Obanai if they won. He confirms Muzan's death. Both near death, Mitsuri asks if they can marry in their next life, and Obanai agrees. Sanemi, in an afterlife, reunites with Genya and his siblings, but his parents pull him back to reality. He awakens, cheered by the Demon Slayers. Inosuke bites a Kakushi, treating him, while Zenitsu, gravely injured, asks them to tell Nezuko he loved her if he dies. Tanjiro lies covered in blood, his broken sword beside him. Gyome weeps, guilt-ridden for surviving again, recalling past losses. Nezuko cries over Tanjiro, but his eyes open, demonic and menacing. He regenerates his arm and attacks a Kakushi, only stopped by Giyu. His nails sharpen, a mark spreads across his face like Kokushibo's, and sunlight no longer affects him. The Demon Slayers stare in shock, wondering what has become of Tanjiro. That is it for this video. Thanks for watching. Shinobi of Konoha signing off.